So I'm going to start with the snare. I'm going to put a new head on and do some tuning and give you an idea of what we need to do to get a good snare sound. But also, different snares sound different, different heads change the sound of the drum. So, but I'm going to do a basic setup. So I'm going to snare drum off here, and I'm going to grab this one that's got no head on. So it just gives me a chance to start with the bottom head, which is kind of important, which is often neglected. So, as with any snare, bottom head, snares. So we need to get the tuning on this right first before we even look at the top head. So I've left the top head off. So what I'm going to do is, a kind of good way to do this is to loosen the snares off and just pop a stick underneath. So if you do that, then obviously these snares aren't affecting the tuning on this bottom head. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to slacken off the drum head, the bottom snare head. Now, it's really important the bottom snare head is a new head. The misconception is that you change the top heads out and the bottom heads they kind of do their own thing. But the bottom head is really important to the sound, and it's really important there's no dents or dinks in the bottom head. A few little things like this are fine, but if there's any real dents in there, it's going to affect the way you tune the drum. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slacken off the bottom head down to basically finger tight. So you just turn the drum key until you get pretty much an even pitch all the way around the drum. You can kind of test it. You can do it with a drumstick. So you want kind of an even pitch on each leg of the drum. The pitch of the drum is important because it'll affect how deep or high pitched the snare is. It's the same with toms as well. The bottom head does affect the pitch of the drum, so you can kind of make the call on how tight you want it. I tend to have, my rule of thumb is always to have the bottom head tighter than the top head, often by about maybe a third in pitch, but again, I don't tend to do it exactly. It tends to be, each drum has its own pitch range where it sounds really good. So what I tend to do is just, you get to know certain drums, and I just kind of tune the drum up and down until it feels good, really. But what I'm going to do with this bottom head on this, which is like a 6.5 inch wood shell snare. This being a 6.5 inch drum, you can actually afford to have the head a little bit tighter on here because the drum's going to be deeper anyway. So what I'm doing at the moment is just pulling up the pitch of this bottom head. So we're getting somewhere close to. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a top head on. This reheading kind of applies to any drum really, whether it's a snare or kick drum or we'll look at the tom reheading in a while. But what I'm going to do is pop this. This is a double ply Evans. You could use Remos or Evanses. I just happened to get these because they were available when I went to buy some yesterday. I often use single ply heads or double plies. Depends on the sort of sound I want. I just happen to have double ply heads on the toms at the moment because it's for the last record I was making. That's the sort of sound I wanted. I wanted a slightly thicker, rounder sound without going to full pinstripe heads. But I'm using a double ply on the top snare because I want a slightly sort of thicker sound, and it's a good general purpose head to use because you haven't got to use quite so much damping on there. So I'm going to pop this on here. So this applies to pretty much any drum you're going to tune up. So I'm going to finger tighten this all the way around. It's important that that you stretch drum heads out as well because they're like guitar strings really. They're going to lower in pitch once they've been playing a little bit. But there's a few ways around this to get this to work properly. That head's all finger tightened all the way around, and as you can see, it's not the greatest of sounds. It's kind of not really how you want it to sound. So what we need to do to bed this head in is get some tension on it. So I just give every lug, but going parallel across the drum so you don't get kinks in the head. So you start on this one, you go to the one that's parallel across from it. There are some schools of thought that say you tune around the drum, but I tend to, this is the way that I tend to do it. So you're working parallel across, getting some really good tension on the snare. Okay. So this is going to end up way tighter than you actually want it. These lugs feel like they need a little bit of WD-40 on them, and they're a little bit stiff. But I tend to leave them a little bit like that because it actually holds the tuning better. It's not that great for the threads, but it does, rather than keep oiling them. I find that a little bit of resistance does help with the tuning. So I'm not too worried about even tuning at the moment. So I'm going to go round anti-clockwise here. After a while, you get to kind of feel where all the tuning should be on each lug. The drums should still sound pretty terrible, really. Although it's starting to sound a bit more like a drum now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take it off here, and I'm going to put it on the floor, and I'm going to kneel on it. I know it looks a bit dangerous, especially when you're not that small like myself. But this is the best way to get. I don't know if you can actually hear. You can hear the head cracking. It's basically just all the resin. It's just sort of just holding the head onto the rim, just evening out really, and just. You can do this with your hands, or you can do it. You can thumbs. You just want to get a good bit of. So the drum's already detuned. You can actually hear that.